The grand chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns. Ambassador James Walker watched the sea of alien faces before him, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. 50 years of human presence in the galactic community had taught him one thing. When the council called an emergency session, trouble wasn't far behind. High Counselor Marcus stood at the central podium, his blue-tinted skin reflecting the chamber's light. The ancestral markings on his elongated head pulsed with barely contained emotion. "The council has convened today to address a matter of grave concern," he announced, his translator converting his whistling speech into standard galactic common. "The rapid expansion of the human species cannot continue unchecked." Walker kept his face neutral, but his mind raced. Earth's colonies had indeed grown faster than anyone expected. In just 5 decades, humans had established themselves across 12 star systems in the Perseus Arm. It was a remarkable achievement, and apparently a threatening one. The memory of first contact flashed through Walker's mind. He had been a young diplomat then, watching the massive alien ship descend through Earth's atmosphere. The aliens had expected to find a primitive species, barely capable of lunar travel. Instead, they found humanity on the brink of cracking faster than light travel. The looks of surprise on their alien faces had been worth recording. "The human species," Marcus continued, pulling Walker back to the present, "has demonstrated an unprecedented rate of technological advancement. Their military capabilities have grown beyond acceptable parameters." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Walker noticed several council members from the older species nodding their heads, or equivalent appendages. The Galactic Council had ruled space for 10,000 years before humanity arrived. They weren't used to change. "Would the council prefer we had stayed primitive?" Walker's voice carried across the chamber, strong and clear. "Perhaps we should have taken 1,000 years to achieve what we did in 50. A hush fell over the assembly. Challenging the High Counselor's speech was considered poor form, but humans had never been good at following alien etiquette. Marcus's skin darkened, a sign of anger in his species. "The council proposes a challenge, Ambassador Walker. Your species must prove its worth to maintain its current status. Fail, and Earth will surrender control of its outer colonies." Walker's hand tightened on the podium. Behind him, his aide transmitted everything back to Earth Command. This wasn't just political maneuvering anymore. This was a direct threat to human sovereignty. "And if we refuse this challenge?" Walker asked, though he already knew the answer. Marcus spread his 4 arms in what was meant to be a peaceful gesture. "Then the Council will be forced to consider Earth a rogue element. Economic sanctions would be the beginning. Military intervention would follow." Walker allowed himself a small smile. These aliens still didn't understand humans, even after 50 years. Threats didn't cow humanity. They unified it. "Very well," Walker said, straightening his uniform. "Earth accepts your challenge, but know this: we will set the terms of our demonstration. You want to see humanity's worth? We'll show you exactly what we're capable of." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. No species had ever dared to modify the Council's terms, but Walker wasn't finished. "And one more thing," he added, his voice cutting through the chaos. "When this is over, we expect a full review of the Council's structure. It's time for some changes in how the galaxy is run." As Walker left the chamber, his communicator buzzed. Earth Command had already received the transmission. Across human space, military units were going on alert, research stations were securing their data, and colonial governors were being notified. The aliens wanted to test humanity's might. Fine, but they would soon learn what Earth's children were truly capable of. The game was about to begin, and humanity played to win. The challenge had been issued. Now it was time to remind the galaxy why challenging humanity was always a mistake. Admiral Thompson stood at the window of his office in Terran Defense Force headquarters, watching the sunset paint Mars sky in shades of red and gold. The holographic displays behind him flickered with incoming data from across human space. Each light represented a colony, a military base, or a research station, all now on high alert. "Play it again," he ordered, and the AI system projected the recording from the council chamber. He watched Ambassador Walker's performance for the 5th time, studying every reaction from the alien delegates. Something wasn't adding up. "Computer, focus on the 3 representatives in Sector 7, Thompson said, his eyes narrowing. The image zoomed in on a group of aliens who seemed unusually calm during the proceedings, while other council members showed signs of agitation or surprise. These 3 remained still, too still. A soft chime announced the arrival of his intelligence chief. "Sir, you need to see this," said Director Roberts, placing a data crystal on Thompson's desk. "We've intercepted communications between the Centaurian Empire, the Proxima Federation, and the Orion Collective. They've been planning this for months." Thompson activated the crystal, and a web of encrypted messages spread across his display. "The 3 most technologically advanced species after humans," he mused, "all working together against us. How interesting." The messages revealed a carefully orchestrated plan. The 3 species had manipulated council votes, spread rumors about human aggression, and fabricated evidence of Earth's supposed threats to galactic stability. Their goal was clear: force humanity to either submit to their control or provide them with advanced human technology. "They're afraid of us," Roberts said, highlighting a particular message. "Our advancement rate terrifies them. Humans achieved in 50 years what took them millennia." Thompson smiled grimly. "Fear makes for poor strategy. They should have studied our history better." He pulled up Earth's military readiness reports. Every colony was prepared, every ship was battle-ready, but not in the way their enemies expected. "Send word to all commands," Thompson ordered. "Initiate Protocol Odysseus." Across human space, hidden preparations began. But these weren't just military movements. They were part of a greater plan. While alien observers watched human warships and defense stations, they missed the subtle shifts in trade routes, the quiet repositioning of civilian ships, and the seemingly routine maintenance on communication relays. Ambassador Walker arrived at the headquarters just as night fell on Mars. "The council bought it," he reported, entering Thompson's office. "They think they've backed us into a corner." "Excellent." Thompson brought up a new display showing the locations of various alien observation posts. "They're watching our military bases, our shipyards, our obvious assets. But they've forgotten something crucial about humans. We never play just one game," Walker finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Thompson nodded. "While they focus on military might, we'll show them why humans are truly dangerous. It's not our weapons they should fear. It's our ability to think differently." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Orders went out across human space, but they weren't what the alien observers expected. Instead of mobilizing warships, humans began a series of apparently random and disconnected actions. Civilian ships adjusted their routes. Colonial administrators filed routine paperwork. Research stations conducted ordinary experiments. "They're watching for a hammer," Thompson said, reviewing the reports of alien surveillance. "They'll never see the web until they're caught in it." As the Martian night deepened, Thompson sent one final order. When the Council demanded their first demonstration of human capabilities, they would get exactly what they asked for, but not in the way they expected. "Let the games begin," he murmured, watching the pieces fall into place. "Time to remind the galaxy why humans write the history books." In the darkness of space, humanity's response to the challenge was already taking shape, not with the bang of warfare that their enemies expected, but with the quiet precision of a species that had turned survival into an art form. The Council's testing chamber was a massive dome of crystalline material, designed to host military simulations for species seeking membership in the galactic community. Today, it would witness something entirely different. "The parameters are simple," High Counselor Marcus announced to the assembled delegates. "Earth will face a standard combat simulation. Their performance will be measured against established galactic metrics." Ambassador Walker stood calmly beside Admiral Thompson as the alien officials explained the test. The simulation would pit human forces against a theoretical invasion force 3 times their size. The council members watched with poorly hidden satisfaction. No species had ever overcome such odds in the chamber's 1,000-year history. "We accept," Thompson said simply. "But we have one condition. We use our own combat units, not the council's standard templates." Marcus's skin rippled with annoyance. "Very well. You have 1 hour to prepare." As the council members took their seats in the observation ring, Thompson activated his command interface. Instead of the expected military units, he loaded something that made the alien technicians stare in confusion. "Are those civilian ships?" one of them asked. "Mostly," Thompson replied with a slight smile. "Shall we begin?" The simulation sprang to life. The enemy fleet appeared exactly as expected, a massive array of warships in perfect military formation. But the human response was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Instead of matching the enemy's formation, the civilian ships scattered in seemingly random directions. Mining vessels dove into asteroid fields. Transport ships made erratic course changes. Maintenance craft disappeared into gas clouds. "What are they doing?" Marcus demanded. "This is not proper military doctrine." Walker's smile matched Thompson's. "No, it's not." The first surprise came when the mining ships suddenly emerged from the asteroids, each now trailing a cloud of refined mineral particles that wreaked havoc with enemy sensors. The transport ships, their paths appearing chaotic, had actually been laying a complex web of gravity distortion fields, channeling the enemy fleet into predetermined zones. "Impossible," one of the Council's military advisors muttered. "They're using civilian infrastructure as a weapon system." The maintenance craft revealed their own tricks, releasing clouds of self-replicating repair nanites that didn't repair at all. Instead, they infiltrated enemy ships through standard maintenance ports, disrupting systems from within. When the human warships finally appeared, they didn't attack head-on. Instead, they used the civilian-created chaos to strike from impossible angles, appearing and disappearing through the sensor-dead zones created by their makeshift tactics. In 20 minutes, the simulation was over. The enemy fleet, 3 times the size of the human force, had been completely neutralized, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the creative use of ordinary civilian resources. "This is not warfare," Marcus protested, rising from his seat. This is human warfare," Thompson corrected him. "We don't fight fair. We don't follow standard doctrine. We use everything available, and we rewrite the rules as we go." The council chamber erupted in heated discussion. Some members were outraged at the unconventional tactics, others were clearly impressed, and a few looked genuinely afraid. Walker stepped forward. "Let me be clear about what you just witnessed. Those weren't our best tactics. That wasn't our most advanced technology. That was simply humans doing what we do best: adapting." "You turned civilian ships into weapons," one council member accused. "No," Thompson replied. "We showed you that in human hands, everything is a resource. Every tool has multiple uses. Every situation has possibilities you haven't considered." As the council members filed out of the chamber, many casting worried glances back at the humans, Walker turned to Thompson. "Think they got the message?" Thompson watched the replay of their simulated civilian fleet dismantling the enemy force. "They're starting to, but they still don't understand the most important part." "What's that?" This was just the beginning. The Council's trade chamber buzzed with activity as screens displayed rapidly falling numbers. After the shocking military simulation, the Council had tried a different approach: economic warfare. They had imposed strict trade sanctions on all human colonies, expecting to bring Earth to its knees within weeks. They were about to learn another lesson about human ingenuity. 6 weeks have passed, High Counselor Marcus announced, his skin now a pale blue of confusion. And human economic activity has increased. Director Thomas of Earth's Economic Council stepped forward, his weathered face calm despite the hostile stares from alien delegates. "Did you really think cutting us off would make us weaker?" The massive display behind him showed trade routes across human space, but instead of the expected collapse, new patterns had emerged. Where galactic trade ships once flew, human vessels now moved in complex networks. "Impossible," the trade minister of the Centaurian Empire muttered. They lost access to 70% of their raw materials. Thomas smiled. "Let me show you something interesting." He gestured, and the display zoomed in on what appeared to be a garbage collection station near Earth's moon. "When you cut off our supply of rare metals, we didn't panic. We adapted." The image showed thousands of old satellites and space debris being systematically broken down and recycled. "We had centuries of space junk orbiting our planet. Now it's all raw materials." Another image appeared: massive floating gardens in Earth's orbit. "When you blocked our food imports, we expanded our orbital farms. They're now producing twice what we used to import." The alien delegates watched in growing disbelief as Thomas showed them more examples. Abandoned mining sites reopened with new, more efficient methods. Ocean floor processing plants extracted minerals that were previously too costly to reach. Every human colony had transformed itself into a self-sustaining unit. "But your luxury goods," one delegate protested. "Your population must be suffering without them." Walker, who had been quietly observing, laughed. "You forget our history. Humans lived without luxury goods for thousands of years. We don't need them. We want them. There's a difference." The display shifted again, showing new industries springing up across human space. Local craftsmen were creating alternatives to imported goods. Entertainment networks had exploded with new content. Human creativity was flourishing under the pressure. More importantly, Thomas added, several non-council species have noticed our success. He highlighted new trade routes extending to previously neutral systems. They've seen how we handle challenges. Many now prefer trading with us over following council restrictions. Marcus's skin darkened with anger. "You have violated the spirit of the sanctions." "No," Thomas corrected. "We simply found opportunities where you expected to create hardship. That's what humans do." The trade chamber erupted in heated discussions as more data poured in. Human colonies weren't just surviving. They were thriving. Their economic growth had actually accelerated under the sanctions, as necessity drove innovation. "There's something else you should know," Walker added, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Everything we've developed during these sanctions, the recycling systems, the new mining techniques, the self-sustaining colony designs, they're now permanent parts of our economy." Thomas nodded. "You tried to weaken us. Instead, you forced us to become stronger, more independent, more innovative." As the council members filed out of the chamber, many were already calling for emergency meetings. Their attempt to pressure humanity through economic means had backfired spectacularly. "Think they'll try something else?" Thomas asked Walker quietly. "Of course," Walker replied, watching the worried aliens leave. "They still haven't realized that every challenge they throw at us just makes us better." The economic sanctions remained in place, but it no longer mattered. Humanity had turned the Council's weapon into an opportunity, just as they always did. And somewhere in human space, Admiral Thompson was already preparing for the next test. The Council's Science Academy stood like a gleaming tower of crystal and light, its halls filled with the greatest minds in the galaxy. Today, those minds were about to witness something unprecedented. "The Council demands proof of your technological capabilities," High Counselor Marcus announced. "Show us these advances you claim to have made." Dr. Laura Reed, Earth's chief scientific officer, stood calmly at the presentation platform. Unlike the elaborate robes of the alien scientists, she wore a simple white lab coat. "We'll start with something basic," she said, placing a small cube on the platform. The cube hummed to life, projecting a holographic display of quantum calculations that made several alien scientists gasp. "This is our standard quantum computer," Reed explained. "Every human colony has thousands of them." "Impossible," One alien scientist declared. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with your methods. Reed interrupted. But we solved the energy problem years ago. She gestured, and the display changed to show a familiar sight to humans, a fusion reactor diagram. The alien scientists crowded forward, their various appendages pointing at different parts of the design. But the containment field, one started, is stable. Reed finished. Perfectly stable. We achieved practical fusion power 15 years ago. It powers everything from our largest cities to our smallest devices. Marcus's skin had turned almost white, a sign of shock in his species. Why didn't you share this technology? You never asked, Walker replied from his observation post. You were too busy trying to control us to consider learning from us. Reed continued her presentation, each revelation more stunning than the last. She showed them terraforming technology that could make a dead world habitable in months, not centuries. Medical nanobots that could cure most diseases in hours. AI systems that worked in perfect harmony with human operators. But perhaps you'd like to see something more practical, Reed suggested, noting the growing unease in the room. She pressed a button on her wrist device. The massive view screen at the front of the chamber came to life, showing a barren asteroid in Earth's solar system. As they watched, something extraordinary happened. Machines smaller than dust particles swarmed over the surface, breaking down the rock and reconstructing it into useful materials. We call it molecular manufacturing, Reed explained. Those nanobots can turn any raw material into anything we need. They're how we survived your trade sanctions so easily. The alien scientists were frantically taking notes, their earlier arrogance replaced by desperate curiosity. Some looked afraid, others amazed, but all of them finally understood what they were dealing with. There's more, Reed continued, her voice steady. Much more. But I think you're beginning to understand why challenging humanity was a mistake. Marcus stepped forward, his composure cracking. These advances, they're beyond anything in known space. How? How did you progress so fast? Reed smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. Because you tried to hold us back. Every restriction you placed on us, every challenge you threw at us, just made us work harder. Humans thrive under pressure. We excel when faced with problems. Walker joined Reed at the platform. The Council wanted to see humanity's might. Well, this is just the beginning. These technologies, they're our basic research. The simple stuff we're willing to show you. The implication hung heavy in the air. If these were the technologies humans were willing to reveal, what were they keeping secret? As the alien scientists huddled in groups, discussing the implications of what they'd seen, Reed packed up her demonstration materials. Think they got the message? She asked Walker quietly. They're starting to, he replied. But I have a feeling they're going to need one more lesson before they truly understand. In orbit above the Science Academy, Admiral Thompson received the signal he'd been waiting for. Phase 5 was complete. Now it was time to prepare for the final act. Emergency alarms blared through the council chamber as red warning lights flashed across every screen. The attack had come without warning. A fleet of unmarked warships had dropped out of hyperspace near the human colony of New Haven. This is not a council action, Marcus shouted, his skin cycling through colors of panic. We did not authorize this attack. Admiral Thompson stood at the central command display, his face carved from stone. No, you didn't, but 3 of your member species did. He touched a control, and detailed intelligence reports appeared on the screens. The Centaurian Empire, the Proxima Federation, and the Orion Collective. They thought they'd catch us unprepared. The attackers had expected to find a vulnerable colony. Instead, they found humanity at its most dangerous, ready and waiting. As the Council watched in stunned silence, the true extent of human military preparation revealed itself. The seemingly peaceful colony transformed before their eyes. Hidden defense platforms emerged from underground bunkers. Civilian ships shifted and changed, revealing concealed weapon systems. Impossible, one of the Centaurian delegates whispered. We've monitored that colony for months. You saw what we wanted you to see, Thompson replied calmly. Every human colony is a fortress. Every citizen is trained. Every building can become a defensive position. We've been preparing for this since we first reached the stars. The display showed the attacking fleet advancing, still confident in their superior numbers. They never saw the real threat coming. Quantum sensors, hidden in asteroid belts, tracked every enemy ship. The colony's AI defense network, far more advanced than anything the attackers had expected, predicted their moves before they made them. And then, humanity's true defensive doctrine revealed itself. It wasn't just about weapons. Every piece of human infrastructure became part of the defense. Mining beams redirected to cut through enemy shields. Communication arrays transformed into sensor jammers. Even the colony's weather control systems played their part, creating electromagnetic storms that disrupted enemy targeting systems. By the ancient stars, Marcus breathed, watching the display. They've turned the entire colony into a weapon. But the real shock came when the human counterattack began. Ships emerged from hidden docks, but they weren't traditional warships. They were something new, hybrid vessels that could adapt their configuration mid-battle, shifting from defensive to offensive patterns in seconds. You see, Walker explained to the stunned council, while you were watching our military bases and shipyards, our real defense forces were elsewhere. Every colony, every outpost, every mining station. They're all part of our defensive network. The battle was over in minutes. The attacking fleet, despite outnumbering the colony's forces 3-1, never had a chance. They hadn't just been defeated. They'd been systematically dismantled by defenses they never knew existed. This is your final lesson, Thompson announced to the silent chamber. Humanity doesn't just fight wars. We don't just defend territory. We change the rules of engagement. We turn everything at our disposal into an advantage. As the dust settled, the council members watched the human forces efficiently securing the captured enemy ships. There had been minimal casualties on both sides, another surprise to the aliens who had expected brutal retaliation. We could have destroyed them all, Walker noted quietly, but that's not our way. Instead, we've taken their ships, their technology, and most importantly, their data. Everything they knew, everything they planned. It's all ours now. Marcus slumped in his chair, finally understanding. The humans hadn't just survived the attack. They'd used it to demonstrate their full capabilities. And in doing so, they'd changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Call an emergency session, Marcus ordered, his voice heavy with resignation. The council must convene immediately. The time for games was over. Now, the galaxy would have to deal with humanity on entirely new terms. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every seat was filled, every species represented, as they gathered for what would become the most important session in galactic history. The events of the past few weeks had shaken the very foundations of galactic society. High Counselor Marcus stood at the central podium, his skin a muted gray of resignation. This emergency session will now begin. The Council must address the recent developments regarding humanity. Ambassador Walker stepped forward, but this time he wasn't alone. Admiral Thompson and Director Roberts stood beside him, along with Dr. Reed. They carried with them a simple data crystal that would change everything. Before we begin, Walker announced, his voice carrying easily through the silent chamber, we have evidence to present. The crystal's contents appeared on the massive displays. Communications logs, secret meetings, hidden transactions, all documenting the conspiracy against Earth. The three guilty species representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats as their plans were exposed. We knew about your plot from the beginning, Thompson explained. Every test, every challenge, every restriction. We knew they were coming. We prepared accordingly. But why? Marcus asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Why let it happen if you knew? Walker smiled. because you needed to learn. Not just about our capabilities, but about your own assumptions. You saw us as a young, unpredictable species that needed to be controlled. We showed you why that was a mistake. Dr. Reed stepped forward. We could have shared our quantum computing advances, but you never asked. We could have helped with your energy crisis through our fusion technology, but you were too proud to admit you needed help. We could have been partners, but you chose to make us prove ourselves instead. The council members looked at each other, many realizing for the first time how their prejudices had blinded them. The humans hadn't just proved their might, they'd exposed the council's own failures. What are your demands? Marcus finally asked, expecting the worst. Demands? Walker shook his head. We don't make demands. We offer opportunities. Here are our proposals for the future. The display changed, showing a new structure for galactic governance. One where experience and age weren't the only measures of worth, where innovation was rewarded, not feared, where cooperation replaced control. First, Walker outlined, the conspiracy ends. The 3 species involved will face restrictions, not as punishment, but until they prove they can be trusted. Second, Thompson continued, we share our defensive technologies with all peaceful species. No more hidden weapons, no more secret wars. True security comes from cooperation, not competition. Third, Reed added, we establish joint research initiatives. Humanity's speed of innovation combined with your centuries of experience. Imagine what we could achieve together. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species immediately supported the proposals, seeing the potential. Others hesitated, clinging to old ways. But all of them knew the galaxy had changed forever. Marcus raised his hands for silence. The council has no choice but to accept these terms. But tell me, truly, could you have forced these changes at any time? Walker looked around the chamber, at faces both alien and familiar. Force creates resistance. We didn't want to control the council. We wanted to change it, to make it better. Sometimes the best way to win is to help everyone succeed. As the session concluded and the new accords were signed, Walker turned to his team. Think they finally understand. Thompson watched the alien delegates filing out, many already forming new alliances, making new plans. They're learning. And that's what humanity does best. We teach by example. The crisis was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had proved its might not through destruction, but through innovation, adaptation, and the wisdom to use power wisely. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a new era of galactic civilization was dawning. One where humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology, but its ability to turn enemies into allies and challenges into opportunities.